And welcome back to this Hannity special investigation into the Bergdahl trade. Now, this week, the White House and some desperate Democrats, they were forced to go on defense. And the latest example comes to us courtesy of an official at the Obama Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, his name is Brandon Friedman, and he posted a series of very disturbing tweets defending his boss and even Bowe Bergdahl. Now, the first quote reads, "Here's the thing about Bergdahl and the jump to conclusion mates. One of his platoon was long on psychopaths and short on leadership." And then he went on to post 4 more consecutive tweets slamming Bergdahl's fellow soldiers. Now, this comes amid reports that the White House is accusing that very same group of brave Americans of trying to, quote, swift boat him. And after Harry Reid, of course, said this about Republicans.
Opponents of President Obama have seized upon the release of an American prisoner of war, that's what he was, using what should be a moment of unity and celebration of our nation as a chance to play political games. The safe return of American soldiers should not be used for political points.
Here with reaction, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. How are you? Good to see you, sir.
How are you, Sean?
We've been friends a long time, and I think my favorite thing that you ever did as mayor, beyond 600,000 people off of welfare and you turned New York City around, all great stories, but is when you were offered money and you turned it down because of where that money was coming from.
And what it was attached to. It was attached to a press conference that blamed the foreign policy of the United States and Israel for the 9/11 attack.
And it was a no-brainer for you.
And I handed it back, and I actually called some of the families, because after all, it was money for them, not for me.
Right.
Because I thought they might have some reservations about it, and they said they didn't want blood money. They didn't want money from people who really seemed to be part of the problem rather than part of the solution.
Yeah, and by the way, and then you went out and raised a lot of money.
Oh, we raised a lot more money. Yeah. We raised a lot more money than that. We raised $220 million.
Let's talk about the swap. Reaction.
Maybe in one of the darker days in American history. And I would say it's going to be the darkest day in Obama's presidency, and it's going to mark his presidency. It was one of the more irresponsible and dangerous decisions an American president has ever made. I received some information the other day from a person who operates within the government saying that we're all in more danger now. What he meant by that were prominent Americans who travel around the world. Because this idea that, my goodness, you can get the worst criminals in Guantanamo by capturing a soldier.
And the Taliban said earlier this week, well, we now know what to do. That they would continue to
I think they got a lot more than they ever thought they were going to get. I have been told by the people who know Guantanamo better than I do, including Attorney General Mukasey, who basically knows it backwards and forwards. These are the 5 worst actors. I mean, there were 6 worst actors. One of them died. They wanted him 2 years ago. Fortunately for us, I mean, he wasn't part of the picture. So these are the 5 worst actors in Guantanamo. Everything else is downhill after these guys. Why would you release the 5 worst in Guantanamo? What is the point of that? And now you're giving them to Qatar for 1 year. Let's assume Qatar controls them for a year, which is a big assumption. Well, a year from now, they're free and clear to plan September 11 plots in Europe, in America, all around the world. That's what they're good at.
And here we have the family members, and I've also interviewed the platoon leaders and those that served with Bergdahl. They all agree he walked off base, that he deserted.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other side. That's a whole other side of it that I think has to be explored for months. The reality is, if this trade were done for a Medal of Honor winner, it would be a bad trade. And probably the Medal of Honor winner wouldn't want to be traded.
Interesting.
Right?
So,
and therefore put other Americans in jeopardy by allowing killers to go free. At least 2 of these men are guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, slaughtering children, slaughtering women. Several of them are expert planners at attacks, similar to the kind of attacks that we were undergoing in the 90s into 2001. There is no possible way I can understand what the president was thinking. It is completely mind-boggling to me.
He bypassed the intelligence community, bypassed the military. Their mission was to, quote, suck it up and salute.
But they were going to tell him no. I mean, he bypassed the Congress. Congress already told him no. I mean, we were through this charade once before, right? 2 or 3 years ago, they were going to do this deal for 6 of these guys. And as far as I can tell from the leaks, Panetta was against it. members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats.
Everybody
Was against it. So he knew this deal was a deal they were going to turn down. There's less reason for it now than there even was then, if there were ever reason for it.
Then what possible reason could and rationale?
I can only think he wants to clean out Guantanamo, and he got rid of the 5 toughest. After this, they're not as tough. Well, not easy. I mean, after this, a lot of other killers, but not at least at this level. I think that's part of it. I think he wants to, when he leaves office, he wants to satisfy his promise. Well, how about this? These 5 men, let's not talk about the rest of them in Guantanamo, should never see the light of day. They've killed so many human beings. They've slaughtered women and children. These human beings should never see the light of day. And to the extent that they do, Americans are in grave jeopardy. Why would a president put Americans in grave jeopardy? What kind of an American president does that?
I don't have the answer. Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And coming